Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anuj. I'm part of the mobile app promo team at Google. We basically handle onboarding of mobile first companies onto Adwords, and we help them generate quality users at scale, right? So, if we could just start quickly. All right. So, next 1 hour, we are gonna basically go through how to promote your app with Google, right? Just a quick housekeeping rules before we start. Make sure you're viewing this in 720p quality. Use the chat option. You won't be able to chat directly with me, so just use the chat option if you have any questions. We have people to respond to you right now, and do leave your feedback after this event, right? Okay, so moving on. So here's the agenda for the next 1 hour. We're going to start off with defining a quality user for your app, for your business, especially, right? We'll move on to the importance of in-app event tracking. It all ties back to actually the quality user, right? We need to figure out, you need to be able to track the user's journey through your app and post it back into AdWords. So we're going to discuss a little bit about that, and then we're basically going to discuss various Google products that you guys can use to promote your app, generate users, quality users, and basically analyze their behavior within your app. Okay, so defining a quality user, right? Just to start, so let's say on your back, right, when it came to app promo, using any of the platforms available currently, people generally used to look at the number of downloads and the cost per download as the right metric, right? For example, while comparing two different ad networks, if let's say one is delivering 20 rupees a download, the other one is delivering a 30 rupees a download, by default the assumption was that the cheaper CPI is the better network, right? But things have actually moved on. CPI is a thing of the past, right? What you actually need to look at now is the lifetime value of the customer, the quality of the customer that every network is generating for you, right? Just to give you an example, to put things in perspective, I would be okay with getting 100 rupees a download, where I can get an 80% D plus 30 retention rate for my app, than get a 50 rupees a download, where the network is actually giving me a 50% retention rates in terms of a D plus 30, right? So it's very important for you to understand what quality every network is delivering to you. And you can only understand and you can only do that once you start analyzing things with your in-app tracking, in-app event tracking, right? Just an example of what we actually mean by figuring out who your quality user is. So a typical user funnel in any kind of an app, right? It starts from an install. People download your app first of all, right? The next step obviously is an app open. You'll actually be surprised in terms of how many people actually not end up opening your app even after installation, right? It's the number globally actually runs very close to a 10 to 12%, right? So there's an install. After that there's an app open, right? You can call it event A. Then post an app open, it can be a registration, right? Post a registration, you can define various kinds of, for example, if you're a gaming company, you can probably define, let's say, reaching level 2 as one of the app event. You can define reaching level 5 as an app event, right? So on and so forth. Over here we're going to define event X is the first event, which is a revenue generating event for you as an app customer, right? So if you look at this slide, right, so these are just sample numbers, assuming 4% of people downloading your app reach event X, the first transacting event on your app, right? And assuming that the average transaction value of that event is $100, right? You can always do a back calculation. You can always calculate what is the value of every install that you're getting. Now there are various ways to look at this number. You can use this number in terms of calculating the CPIs that you should be bidding for. right? For example, in this case, in this specific example, it says that $4 is, the value per user who is installing the app, right? Now the ways to increase that is obviously by increasing the conversion rate. So assuming, let's say, if through better targeting and getting a better users on your app, let's say we make this 4% as a 10%, right? Then clearly the value per user would increase, right? Because end of the day the transaction value remains the same at event X, right? So you need to understand that quality users are the ones that matter. Just downloads don't matter. And to get quality users, you need to understand, what events are important for you, define them in the system, define them on your dashboard, and then track them separately. Again, so going by simple math, you can start calculating the value of every user at different events, right? So over here, you'll be able to figure out that, okay, every user, let's say, opening my app is worth $5. Every user registering on my app is worth $20. So obviously, if I start getting more registrations, the value increases, right? So CPI is just not something you should be looking at. There's a whole lot of things within your app, within the user journey that you need to look at, right? Okay, so this was just basically to define what a quality user is. We just wanted to give you context of not to just look at cost per installs, but actually look at the value of the user a network is driving for you, right? Now, importance of in-app tracking. Now, obviously, to figure out the quality of every user, you need to be able to track it, right? Now, tracking for apps is very different from web. You need to use SDKs. SDKs are software development kits. Are basically small snippets of codes, third-party codes that you can put in your app, which help the app communicate with an external, network, right? For example, since Play belongs to us, yes, we can report installs in AdWords without, any SDKs. But once an installation happens and a user is using your app, there is no way for the app to tell AdWords in terms of who are the quality users, right? So for that, you always need a third party SDK, which kind of acts as an intermediary and, kinds of reports the user journey back into any network that you're using to promote your app, right? Obviously, these identifiers for Android are ADIDs, and for iOS, these are IDFAs. And basically, you use postback URLs, a third party postback URL, to report back to the system, report back to the ad network for it to work on the quality users, right? Just a quick app terminology. I'm sure if you guys are attending this session, you probably know all of this. But just a quick overview: LTV is very important. Cohort analysis, you probably need to do this from time to time to figure out, because once you make changes in your campaigns, you make changes in your apps, you need to figure out the difference in performance based on different time phases, right? Retention rates will be very important to define the quality of the user. Monthly active, daily actives, again, generic app metrics, which I'm sure you guys are aware of. Average revenue per user is something you need to calculate, and this is something which a quality user can help you increase, right? Technical app terminology. SDK, again, is the software development kit, helps your app basically communicate with a third party. ADIDs and IDFAs are identifiers on Android and iOS respectively. This is exactly what once you run campaigns on AdWords, is what AdWords shares with you. Like, we don't share a user's email ID or a phone number or any other detail. The unique identifier for every user is an ADID or an IDFA, and that's what Google ends up sharing if you actually promote your app, right? Server to server and postbacks are basically third party terminology. These are basically pings that a third party, between a third party and the AdWords interface. Postbacks are the URLs which you input into AdWords interface for it to communicate with third parties. So like I said in the beginning, right, to basically tell AdWords in terms of your user journey, since your app cannot communicate directly with AdWords post an installation, you need some kind of a third party SDK to be implemented in your app. Using a server to server method, you can use a postback URL to attribute different in-app actions, how the user journey has been back into AdWords, and that is how AdWords basically gets to know who the most quality user is, and once AdWords knows that, we should be able to optimize based on your quality users. So by default, for example, by default, AdWords optimizes on installs, right? But let's say you want AdWords to optimize on signups. Now, how would AdWords know which are the people who have signed up, right? So that is where server to server and postbacks come in, right? We're going to discuss more about that later in the presentation. So why do third parties exist, right? So again, guys, this is just kind of to put things into perspective before we actually cover the product in terms of how you can use Google to promote your app. We just want you to keep these things in mind, at the back of your mind, before we move on to the product. So obviously third parties help you measure LTV. LTV is lifetime value of a user, right? They also, the major use of third parties is to dedupe installs across advertising channels. So just to give you an example, let's say you are running app promo campaigns on Google AdWords, and let's say you're running it on 5 other networks as well, right? Now, generally what happens is everybody has an attribution window. Like for Google, let's say we would attribute an install to AdWords if somebody has clicked on your ad but installed the app, let's say 20 days later, right? On the other hand, somebody else, like there are other networks who have their own attribution windows. Now what the deduping does is, what a third party does is attributes that download to the network which got the latest click, right? So that's just an example. There are various ways third parties are able to detect and dedupe, but just a sample example, right, of the latest click, right? And they also help you understand the user quality beyond a traditional 30-day window. Sample examples of the top third parties. Now, these are the third parties which have a great integration with AdWords, right? So if you have any one of them, great. These are paid platforms, but if you don't, we actually have a solution for you, which is completely free, which is called Firebase. You guys must have heard of it. It's an app-only analytics launched by Google around 3-4 months back. We're going to discuss more about Firebase later on. Again, this is just a sample of how postbacks work. For example, let's say somebody downloads your app, right? He clicks on your ad, downloads your app. Post that, he takes an action within the app. Let's say he signs up within the app, right? Now, what that does is, once a click happens, the AD IDs of those clicks are stored in AdWords, right? And once an in-app action is taken, a third party like an apps flyer or a tune or Firebase solution, they would basically be able to track that in-app action, and through a postback they will check with AdWords that, okay, this is the action this AD ID has taken. Was it generated through AdWords, right? What AdWords will do is try and match that AD ID, and based on the match it'll be able to take a call whether the action was actually generated from a user generated through AdWords, right? So this is the basic workflow, and that is why you need a third party. Like if, for example, if you just want to optimize on installs, if you're just looking to, let's say get 10,000 downloads, 20,000 downloads using AdWords, just installs, you don't need a third party. But again, things have moved on. We would recommend you to start analyzing a quality user, and to do that, a third party or any kind of a postback solution. So Firebase is one of them. Any kind of postback solution is very much necessary, right? So coming on to Firebase or any other third party, right? So Firebase is a Google product, like I said. So you can do tracking through an AdWords SDK as well. The thing is, AdWords SDK only works with AdWords, right? On the other hand, a Firebase SDK works with all kinds of ad networks. Apart from Facebook, we're still working on that. So a Firebase SDK would be able to dedupe installs across all networks. So most of the top networks existing in the world and AdWords. We just don't have integration with Facebook currently, right? So for those of you who are looking to run campaigns on AdWords and don't want to go for a paid platform, a paid attribution platform, can always use Firebase. You can always find more information about Firebase by just Googling it. It's a simple SDK. It's a 173 KB SDK. It doesn't make your app heavy. You can always use it, and you can use it to monetize. There's a crash analytics available in Firebase. There are a whole lot of features which are there in Firebase. It's not just attribution. It's an overall complete suite for app developers, right? You have crash analytics there. You can define all kinds of app events. You can create buckets of users, and use those lists in AdWords as well as AdSense. AdSense is our monetization platform, right? And it's completely free, by the way. So moving on, let me just skip this. Okay, so now since we have defined what a quality user is and how to track that quality user using a third party, right? Now I think is the time to discuss how we can use Google's products to actually generate users at scale, right? Okay, so when it comes to a mobile phone, when it comes to a mobile user, right? These are the top things that you generally do on your mobile, right? You search for apps on the Play Store. You basically search for stuff on the google.com or google.co.in in India, right? You're basically browsing within different apps. You're playing games. You're on a finance app. You're on a news app, etc. Right? You're browsing the web on your browser, and you're watching videos on YouTube. Right? These are some of the top activities that obviously people do in general on their mobile phones. Right? Now, as Google, we offer you the opportunity to basically advertise, to showcase your app, to be on the top on all these platforms, right? You can place your ads. You can be on the top for all kinds of keywords on Google Play. You can place your ads on google.com. You can do interstitials and different specifications of banners on different in-apps. I'm sure you must have seen a lot of apps when you use different apps. You can place your ads on the mobile web, and something very recent is you can do app install ads on YouTube as well. Now, these are, when it comes to generating users for your app, there are two goals in general that people have in mind, right? It can either be just generating new installs at scale, where you don't really care about the quality. All you need is, people use this for, let's say, alpha testing, beta testing, where you've just released an app and you just want, let's say, 5,000 users to, give you feedback and figure out, whether your app is doing fine or not. So in that case, again, you don't really need to worry about who your quality user is. All you need is generating some downloads at scale, right? On the other hand, somewhere down the line, during the life cycle of your product or the app, you would want to build a business. You would only care about the quality users, right? 100,000 downloads don't matter if people don't transact, right? You would rather have 20,000 downloads and have 10,000 transactions than have 100,000 downloads and have maybe 2,000 transactions, right? So user quality matters. So as Google, you can use AdWords as a platform to fulfill either of these goals, right? We can help you generate users at scale as well at a given CPI, or we can help you generate quality users by using postbacks and the third party in-app event tracking that we just discussed to maximize your ROI, right? Okay, so looking at scale, now again, if you guys are looking for scale, generating just downloads for your app, nothing better than AdMob. AdMob is the in-app display network, right? Reach out to 900 million unique devices. All premium app, all niche apps belong to our network, right? So you can always use AdMob, do a simple display campaign, do a broadcast, uh, reach out to all kinds of apps and generate users at scale, right? On the other hand, if you're looking for user quality, now I'm sure all of you agree the most highly intent based downloads happen through search, right? Anybody who's looking for your product or services, the first thing as while doing digital marketing that you would do is open your doors to people who are looking for you, right? So Google Play and google.com, google.co.in, basically Google on the browser, is where you can place your ads for various queries. It's very simple. You can bid on keywords that you relate to your business, and your ads can appear on the top. And these are generally, we've seen, are the highest quality users when they come from search, right? The next step is obviously branding. When it comes to branding, when you're expanding into other markets, or let's say you have an app, a very niche app, where you need to tell a user about certain use cases. Like generally people get confused in terms of how to use the app, right? uh, yeah, it's easier for people to understand a utility app, or let's say a shopping app, right, or a news app, right? But there are so many categories where, a lot of times we've seen developers come to us saying that, people are giving me bad reviews, people don't understand what the app is all about, they're downloading it thinking of it as something else, right? So when that's the case, that is where you need the highest quality user in terms of targeting, right? That is where we recommend YouTube, because as YouTube we've seen a 20-second video or a 15-second video about the use case of your app. Once you portray that to the users out there, the downloads that you generate through YouTube turn out to be the most high quality compared to what that category of app generates through, let's say, a display or a search campaign, right? Because getting a user on board by showing him a 15-minute video in terms of what your app does can actually, even if you look at the logic, delivers the best quality, right? Universal app campaigns is something I'm sure you guys must have heard about a lot. We're going to discuss universal app campaigns a lot in detail somewhere down the line. So universal app campaigns basically are is a one-stop shop kind of thing. It takes 10 minutes to set up, and it enables you to run across our networks, display, search, and YouTube, right? We're going to discuss more about universal app campaigns, but first we're just going to cover search, display, and YouTube separately in terms of how it works, what are the ad formats, how would your ads look on the network. Then we can come on to universal app campaigns, right? So display, right? I'll start with display. Display is all those flash and banner ads that you see across the web, right? When it comes to mobile app installs, we're talking about in-app display campaigns, and we're talking about the mobile web, right? When uh, when you consider in-app display, you guys must have seen a lot of ads. Interstitial. So, for example, the one on the right, the one that you see right now, is an interstitial ad. It takes up the entire space on the screen, right? The best part about this app, this ad, is this is a text ad, right? So, for example, if you look at the bottom, those 3 lines of text that you see in the ad is all you give into the system. The rest is auto created. So, for example, let's say WordStreak is the app over here, right? All they've done is given those 3 lines of text, run it on display network. What Google does is pulls up the icon from the Play Store, pulls up the ratings, the number of reviews, uh, pulls up the price as well. Over here, it's free, but it will also state the price of the app over there. We'll give an install button, and there can be, we can also pull up different screenshots that you have on the Play Store and create interstitial ads out of them. So it's very easy in case, if you're really small, you don't have a creative agency on board, or you don't have the capability to create really awesome banners to run on the AdMob network. All you need to do is just simply provide the text that you need to communicate to the users out there. We will do the rest. So Google will create its own banner, as you can see over here, and run it across mobile web. Now, again, some key things are we have something called as confirm clicks. So for example, if you click on this ad, there are a lot of accidental clicks that happen on interstitials because they take up the full screen of a mobile phone. So to prevent that, Google has something called as a confirm click. So on this ad, it would require 2 clicks from a user side for it to be counted as a click, and for as an advertiser for you to be charged, right? So for example, if you click on an install button over here, it's going to ask you for a confirmation whether you want to install the app or not, right? Post this, and once a user clicks yes on that, is when you're charged for a click and the app download starts, right? Again, we have something called a smart targeting, which runs across our network. It's not just for display, but actually for search and YouTube as well, which is your ads will not show to people. Your app install ads specifically will never show to people who already have your app downloaded, right? Uh, so if you really want to reach out to people with a specific communication who have your app downloaded, then you need to look at re-engagement campaigns, right? For that, you need to upload a list of AD IDs, in AdWords, which you generate through your analytics of your top users, upload them into AdWords, and run a specific campaign targeting those AD/IDs. Right? So that's a completely separate conversation. Right now, if you're looking at just generating new users, by default, AdWords will never show your ads to people who already have your app installed. Right? Just an example, some more examples of how you know ads would appear on the display network. The one on the left is a video interstitials. Again, you can use videos, your YouTube videos, to be shown in full screen banner ads. The one on the right is an interactive interstitial made in HTML5. As you can have multiple images, carousel of different images within the banner itself. Okay, so certain features of a display campaign specifically, it has like a lot of ways to target users. For example, you can target paid app installers. Now, obviously, since again, this is available for Android apps, uh, as a disclaimer, not for iOS apps on display, because Play belongs to Google, right? We know the people who are making the transactions online. We know the people, who are actually making in-app purchases, right? So we do have at the back end a list of these guys. And if your app is reliant on in-app purchases, let's say you're a game, let's say you're as a music app, which is reliant on monthly subscription, for example, right? In either of these cases, if you think that you're going to make money, your revenue model is in-app purchases, you should always go for paid app installer targeting. What the system does is shows your ad to people who have a habit of transacting online on the apps, right? The other one is installed app categories. So installed app and app categories, basically. So again, what you can do is at the click of a button, you can select different app categories which you think, if a user has installed on his phone, is the right user for you. Just to give you an example, let's say you are a new cab booking app. You are a new company which is into cab booking, competing with the likes of an Ola or an Uber, right? Let's say you want to generate app downloads for them. Now, what you can do is select transportation as a category in AdWords, right? What that essentially means is you're telling the system that anybody who has transportation apps installed on their phone already, these are my right users, and these are the users who are going to see your ads no matter where they go. So, for example, if you're a cab booking company and you target transportation app category, anybody who has all the top guys in the app app booking category, if let's say I have I personally, let's say if I have a Uber or an Ola installed on my phone, I would see your ad even if I'm on a ClickBuzz or like a Times of India or a Daily Hunt, right? So basically telling the system that you want to go after people who have certain specific kind of apps already installed on their phones, right? Then you have new devices. AdWords allows you to reach out to people who have come onto the system, come onto the Android ecosystem for the first time in the last 7 days, 14 days, 30, 60, or 90 days, right? Now, see, there are various ways you can use the combination of these targeting. I'll just give you an example. Let's say you're a new chat app competing with the likes of WhatsApp, right? Now it's difficult to turn around current users of WhatsApp, or let's say a WeChat or a Line. People are happy with what they have. They're generally skeptical about trying out new apps in that category. So in that case, what you can do is you can actually reach out to people who have come onto the platform for the first time in last 7 days, right? I mean, we have 10 to 12 new smartphone devices being sold on a monthly basis in India, right? Like the most conservative figure of assuming at least 2 million new people come onto Android devices for the first time every month. So there are so many new people who haven't been influenced as of yet by these top brands, by these top competitors of yours, right? So it makes a lot of sense to create an impact with a new user, people who don't really know about the top guys out there currently. And again, you can really use this form of targeting to reach out to them. Now, again, one of the key features, again, this is a recent launch, active user targeting. Now, active user targeting is, again, you select a category of apps And you're essentially doing is you're telling the system to show your ads to people who are active within a certain category of apps, right? So coming back to the transportation, the cab booking app example, right? You can actually select active user app as well. So for example, there'll be a lot of people who have transportation apps installed on their phone but are not actively using them, right? On the other hand, let's say you're a gaming company, and you want, let's say you make a cricket game and you want to reach out to people, you're reliant on in-app purchases for your game, and you want to reach out to active gamers, right? Not just the installed app categories, because a lot of people might have cricket games installed on their phones but are not really playing them, right? So you can select app categories, and on top of that, by the click of a button, you can select active users as well. And the system will actually, figure out who are these people who have these kind of apps installed on the phone and are active users of those apps, right? One key thing to understand here is you can actually do a mix and match of all kinds of targeting, right? It's not that you have to select only one of them at any given point of time. You can actually do a, let's say, an installed app category on new devices and active users all together, right? So it's up to you. The main thing to consider here is the more you narrow down your targeting, right? The lesser, like the costlier your downloads become. And because if you do a runoff network targeting, let's say you tell the system to go after all kinds of people, obviously system would be able to generate cheaper downloads. But the more niche you go in terms of targeting, there is always a trade-off in terms of cost per installs and cost per in-app events, right? So that was display, right? Just a recap: flash and banner ads that you run across mobile apps and mobile web. And Google can create banners for you. All you need to do is upload few lines of text. But if you want to control your creatives, you can do that as well. There are around 13 different dimensions that Google allows you to showcase. You can always find them. You can just Google them in terms of mobile app creatives dimensions, and you can always upload your creatives on display banners. Moving on to search. Now search, right? Everybody knows about search. Like it's as simple as uploading an ad, defining your ad, bidding on certain keywords, and that's about it, right? Now we do have something called as a keyword suggestion tool, which can actually help you generate app specific keywords if you have an app. Just an example of how we recently have launched play search ads as well. You must have seen them on the Play Store. In fact, Google has also launched a second position on the play search. Currently you would probably see just one ad, but very soon you'll also start seeing two ads in search results, probably on fifth position, right? So yeah, okay, one key question. I'm sure you guys must since I'm sure you know a little bit about search, but one key question is, how do I appear on play search, right? The one that you see right now on the right hand side. The answer is, you need to do nothing extra. Like all you need to do is create a normal app install search ad on AdWords. Put in your keywords, define your ad, put in the ad text, give your app ID into the system, and that's about it. Those same keywords would allow you to run your ads on Google search as well as Play search, right? By the way, Play, like obviously you cannot show your ads. We cannot show your ads on iOS App Store. When it's an iOS app, all you can do is show your ads on Google search, right? Yeah. So quick recap. Again, search, very simple. You create your ad text, input the keywords that you want to bid for, which are relevant for your product or services that you're offering. You can go as broad as you want, or you can go as niche as you want, right? For just to give you an example, let's say you are a hotel booking app in India, right? Generally, people would bid on keywords like, let's say, book hotels in Goa, book hotels in Delhi, uh, stuff like that. You know, just an example of how you can actually go broader for a hotel booking app. So, for example, you would want to target people outside of India who are looking for travel tips in India, right? So you can actually bid on keywords like top 10 places in India, or top 10 things to do in Delhi for someone searching out of, let's say, Europe, anywhere in Europe or Dubai or US or whatever, right? So if you really are serious about the business, you need to figure out the use case. You need to figure out what kind of people would it make sense for your to download your app, right? So in this case, let's say a hotel booking app, it makes sense. If you're an Indian hotel booking app, it makes sense for people who are traveling from outside to India. All the tourists that are coming into India, they might be making those searches outside of India, right? So you need to start bidding on keywords which are broader and not just restrict yourself to, let's say, just book hotels or book rooms in Delhi or Mumbai or Chennai and stuff like that, right? So that's what you need to think about your business and make a larger list of keywords. Okay, YouTube, right? I'm sure you guys must have seen a lot of YouTube ads. If you guys browse YouTube, you must have seen a lot of skippable ads. They're becoming more common by the day, right? They give the best experience. It's a win-win situation for the advertiser as well as the user. Uh, for those of you who don't know, when you do skippable ads as an advertiser, you don't pay anything to Google or anyone until and unless the user watches beyond 30 seconds, right? So anybody who's skipping your ad, let's say you're doing YouTube advertising with us in terms of a skippable ad, and anybody who skips your ad, you don't pay for that user. You don't pay anything for that, right? So you essentially, you're only charged for people who are interested in your video, who are interested in your product, and end up watching your video and get influenced by you, right? Now, as an app, Google gives you an option to place an install button right then and there when your ad is being shown on YouTube, right? As an example, as you can see on the right hand side, it's a skippable ad. It is an app install ad where Google will place an install button when your ad is being played. Again, the best part is the install button remains throughout the length of the original video as well. So let's say in this case, somebody skips your ad and the original video which was being intended to play is being played, that install button remains throughout the length of the original video. We call it a companion banner and it persists even if the video is skipped, right? And you're charged when somebody watches your video beyond 30 seconds or clicks on the install button. Now, again, there are two types of video YouTube advertising formats that you can go for. One is in-stream and one is in-display. In-stream is the regular video ad that you must have seen while watching various videos. In-display is something where when you search for certain keywords, so YouTube, a quick fact, actually, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, right after Google. A lot of searches that happen on YouTube, you can actually run in-display campaigns on YouTube and bid on specific keywords just for YouTube, right? So that when people are searching for those specific keywords, your ads, your recommended video basically comes on the top, right? And the second type of ad format is an app install ad format on the search results of YouTube. You're charged when somebody clicks on your ad and watches your video, or somebody clicks on the install button and installs your app, right? Again, one very important thing I want you guys to keep in mind when it comes to YouTube is that not to look at YouTube in terms of pure pay performance. Like, YouTube is not going to deliver you great CPIs compared to what a search or a display or a universal app campaigns can. The reason being, end of the day, YouTube is a branding platform, right? In fact, the pricing on YouTube is also typical YouTube pricing where you're charged for a view, right? Installs, the install button and giving you the ability to place an install button directly on YouTube is kind of an extension that Google provides you. But end of the day, you're like, we urge advertisers not to calculate ROI in terms of cost per installs on YouTube. It is just a bonus. You should be when it comes to YouTube, you should be looking at the number of views you got, the kind of branding you did, the number of people you were able to reach out to. The installs are just a bonus that happen on YouTube, right? Just an example of how a YouTube app install ad works, right? Again, when somebody clicks on the install button, he's not taken away from the YouTube page onto the Play Store page. The video, actually, your ad would actually pause, and the prompt to install the app would appear right then and there. And once you click on the install button, you're taken back to the video and the original video is being played, right? So it doesn't interrupt the user flow. If the user takes a call to install the app, we are able to get it done right onto the user interface on YouTube's interface. And once the installation happens, he's taken right back to the original video that he wanted to play. Right. Okay, universal app campaigns. One big news I wanted to share with you guys. Universal app campaigns are now available for iOS apps as well. Right. This is a very recent announcement. It's probably been just 3 weeks earlier. Before that, universal app campaigns were only there for Android apps. I'm going to just take you through. There are a couple of new features as well. We'll just take you through them. Okay, so for all of you who don't know what a universal app campaign is, so like I said, we just discussed search, where you can place your ads on Google search as well as Play search. We just discussed display, flash and banner ads across mobile apps and mobile web, and we just discussed YouTube, right, where you can place your ads on different category of videos. Now, universal app campaigns is basically a single campaign type which allows you to run across Google, Google.com, Google Play. AdMob is our in-app inventory. MGDN is the mobile Google display network, which is the web, and YouTube through the same campaign type, and it's all completely automated. It generally takes around 10 minutes to set it up. I'll just tell you how. So all you need to do when setting up a universal app campaign is upload a few lines of text about your app. It's basically 4 lines of text that you need to input, tell the system about your app, independent of each other, right? Give an optional video if you have. Obviously, the video needs to be on YouTube on your channel. So you can always provide a link of your video. Input your locations, target locations, languages. By languages, we mean the language of the content that you want to target your display ads on. Input your daily budget and input your target cost per install that you're okay with, right? That's about it. What the system does is creates your text ad, creates your search ads based on the 4 lines of text that you provided, creates a display ads. Like I told you before, we are able to create ads by pulling up the app icon and the different screenshots that you have on the Play Store. We can convert them into interstitial banners, right? So all your banner ads are created automatically, or your text ads are created automatically. And if you have an optional video, we can run across YouTube as well. Now, what Universal App Campaign does is runs across search, display, and YouTube, optimizes across all these 3 networks, figures out which network is performing better for you, and throttles your budgets accordingly, splits your budgets accordingly. So for example, it might figure out that display is probably performing better, YouTube is not giving you a great target, great cost per install, search is kind of just a little bit higher in compared to what display is. So what UAC will do is probably 2-3 days down the line will stop spending anything on YouTube on its own. Will increase your spends on display, like increase the split of your spend on display and probably decrease the split of your spend on search, right? Everything is automated. You don't need to do anything. As and when Universal App Campaign collects data, it keeps analyzing in a real-time basis and keeps taking a call, and you'll see a improvement in performance on a daily basis, basically. Yeah, so everything is automated. Like I said, ads are created on their own. Bids are decided obviously based on the target CPI that you're providing the system. Now, one again key thing to keep in mind is make sure you give a competitive target CPI to the system. And for example, hypothetically, let's say as a travel app or let's say a shopping app, hypothetically saying, let's say an average cost per download of a shopping app in India is 100 rupees. When you're running a universal app campaign for a shopping app, you cannot provide the system a target CPA of 20 or 30 rupees. Like, it doesn't mean whatever target CPA you provide the system is going to deliver that CPI. It has to be in line with what the industry average is. If you give, let's say, a 20 or a 30 rupee CPI to the system where the industry average is 100, what will eventually happen is the system won't spend anything. Like, even if you have a 1 lakh rupee a day budget, you'll probably end up spending just 100 rupees or 200 rupees, because obviously UAC is going to still try out a couple of things maybe, but that's about it. But if the system knows that 20 rupees is not possible, 30 is not possible, right, for this category, it's not going to spend anything. and there is no point in doing that. End of the day, right? Budget distributions, like I said, happen automatically. Targeting also, again, in UAC, you don't get any targeting options, as in you can't select what gender you want to target, you can't select what age groups you want to target, you can't select what websites or app categories you want to target, because the whole fundamental behind universal app campaigns is machine learning, and we believe that we let the system decide where is like we let the system decide where it can get the best downloads from, where it can get you the best CPI from, based on historical performance. So obviously it takes you know around a week's time for universal app campaigns to collect enough data, analyze, create different models, and start delivering a great performance, right? Your system decides uh, what websites to show our ads on, what keywords to bid on, what keywords not to bid on, right? With time, initially it does build a list of keywords, websites, apps where it wants to show our ads on, but slowly and slowly, as and when performance metrics come in, the system analyzes that data, does the budget distribution, figures out which are the keywords, which are the websites, which are the apps to remove from the system, not to show ads, because they probably are delivering a higher CPI than your target CPI, and try and optimize in the best manner, right? So that's the gist of universal app campaigns. Just an example of the interface, right? As you can see, as and when you input, so this is what you'll see when you go to your AdWords account and create a universal app campaign, right? You'll be able to, let's say, input 4 lines of text, and as and when you input these lines, you'll see on the right hand side how your ads are going to look for those lines of text. It's all real time. As and when you type, your ads are going to start appearing on the right hand side. So for example, you can see a play search ad over there, you can see a Google search ad, and there's an interstitial ad on the right hand side, right? That's how your ad is going to look. It pulls up data from the Play Store page of yours, and obviously the lines of text that you're providing are the ones that get appended into that banner ad, and a whole full screen interstitial is created, right? Okay. Yeah. These are the options that you get once you given your full lines of text. So once you given the URL for your video, then you get an option to select the locations you want to target, the languages that you want to target, set your daily budget for the campaign, and your target cost per install, right? It's as simple as that. A couple of new things in universal app campaigns. First, obviously it's available for iOS now, right? Secondly, now by default, like till 3 weeks back, universal app campaigns could only optimize based on installs. Now again, if you know tie it back to the first topic that we discussed, defining a quality users, right? For example, on the screen you can see, now universal app campaigns allows you to optimize, allow like you to optimize on different in-app actions that you have defined in your system, right? Just a sample, right? Let's say you've defined registration as an in-app event, you have defined a search for an item as an in-app event, you've defined add to cart as an in-app event. All these events obviously need to be tied back to AdWords using a third party. Like I said, Google will not get to know about these until unless you have a third party in place, or Firebase Analytics in place, right? Using either of them, you do post back solutions, you start posting stuff back into AdWords, and once different in-app events start collecting data, they will start appearing in your universal app campaign bid strategy. And as you can see over here, you can shift universal app campaigns to optimize on different in-app actions and move away from target cost per install. So in this case, so for example, let's say you select purchase as the in-app event that you want UAC to optimize on. In that case, the target CPA that you're giving has to be the target cost per event and not cost per install, right? So for example, if a cost per install, let's say an industry average cost per install of, let's say a news app is 50 rupees, or let's say a gaming app is 50 rupees, and cost per purchase, cost per user who made a purchase is 150 bucks, right? If you're moving your campaigns to optimize on purchase, then your target cost per install, target CPA is what we call it, cannot be 50 rupees. It has to be in line with 150, right? So basically, UAC now allows you to optimize for different in-app actions. And this is just a sample of how, you know, display banners would look for iOS apps, and the one on the right is for Android apps. Yeah. So a quick recap, right, of whatever we've discussed so far. So if you're planning to do promotions using AdWords, don't just create your campaign and don't just look at cost per installs. Define your quality user. Figure out which are the events that are the most important for you, which are the events that actually make, so they again don't necessarily have to be a purchase, right? If for example you are reliant on in-app advertising to make money, in that case obviously you want people to be spending more time on your app, right? So for that, your different in-app actions which are more important for you should be, let's say if it's a game, let's say people reaching level 5, reaching level 6, reaching level 10, it's and so on and so forth, right? Because as and when people go down the funnel in your app, that clearly means they're spending more time on your app, right? So define that in-app event, define that action which makes more sense for you. Use third parties, use Firebase. If you all don't have a paid third party already in place, use Firebase. It's completely free of course. Use Firebase SDK in your app. Do postback solutions in your AdWords account. Allow AdWords to collect different in-app action data so that you can with time shift your optimizations onto different in-app actions and not just installs, right? And leverage the power of UAC. Like UAC, we've seen uh, it's been almost like what, 14 15 months UAC was launched, and we've seen great performance globally for all kinds of apps, right? And one very important thing, especially for UAC, you need to give the system at least like around 10 to 15 days for it to learn and optimize and start throwing a great performance. For example, if you start a UAC campaign today, you can't expect a great CPI on day one, like, because the way UAC works is it is based on machine learning. It collects data, it analyzes every day's performance, and makes changes in a real time in terms of your budget splits and your bids and kind of keywords you want to bid on, right? So allow it some time, give it some time to optimize, and be a little patient in terms of UAC. And generally, within 10 to 15 days, you'll start seeing great performance. Like we've seen a reduction of almost 500% within 10 days of CPIs. Like for example, if somebody's getting 150 CPI using UAC on day one, we've seen these guys drop to maybe a 30 rupees CPI within 5 days, right? You'll always see a negative slope on your cost per download graph in AdWords. You can always do that. You can always track different kind of metrics in your AdWords account, and UAC guarantees you a negative slope in the first 10 days. Like, it improves with time, right? So don't do a 2-day or a 3-day campaign using UAC. Give it some time. uh, be a little patient. Give it a couple of weeks. That is when it starts delivering the best performance. Yeah. So that's about it, guys. Please do leave your feedback in the comment section. And do look out for our next session on mobile in general on 6th of October. That's day after tomorrow.